President-elect Trump could be announcing more cabinet appointments later on this morning after naming his campaign manager, Susie Wiles, as his White House chief of staff. She will be the first woman to ever hold that role. Let's bring in Mick Mulvaney, who had that very job, White House chief of staff, during President Trump's first term. He is a NewsNation contributor, of course. Mick, a very long week for you. Thanks for rounding it out here with me. Talk about the significance of this choice, and why is it the first time we're seeing a woman in this role?
Oh, it's a good question. I know that we had talked about it was time for a woman to do the job. We had some really good chief deputies in the past that we thought might get promoted, but it just didn't work out that way. Everything I hear about Susie, and I don't know her personally, seems to indicate she's the perfect woman for this particular job. Running a campaign is not that different. Not that similar, but it's not that different to running the West Wing. You take that and multiply by about 10 or 15, and that's what you get to be. That's what you get with a chief of staff. The critical part here, I think, Markie, in my mind, is that she gets to be first, and that's absolutely important because now, hopefully, she'll be able to participate in the process of adding the rest of the staff inside of the White House. Some chiefs of staffs get to come in and help pick their own team. Others, as I did, come in and inherit the team from the previous chief. So she'll have a chance now to be involved in the positions that don't get a lot of attention but are really, really important. Who's the chief lawyer in the building? Who's going to be the press secretary? Who's going to run the logistics of it? So it's a critical job, and it's nice for her to be the first person named because she'll be able to build her own team.
Yeah, it's a critical job. You were also talking last night on the Hill. It's a difficult job. The chief of staff tells the president things he doesn't want to hear. She will tell, and do the things that President Trump doesn't want to do. What did Trump go through? 4 while you were there, chiefs of staff? Why is there such high turnover, and what should she expect?
It's a tough job. It is. I mean, look at me. I'm only 27 years old, and look what the job did to me.
I'm not laughing, Mick.
The average life expectancy of a chief of staff is 15 months. Yeah. Why is that? By the way, yes, Donald Trump had 4 in his first term. So did Barack Obama. It's a really, really hard job. Your job is to tell the president things that he doesn't want to hear. And that can wear on a president over a period of time because everybody else in the White House is sort of excited to tell the president all of the good news. I can't tell you the number of times that in the morning a staffer would come to me and say, oh, can I tell the president we just got great news? And in the afternoon, the same staffer would come to me and say, hey, could you deliver this bad news to the president? So that will wear on a relationship over the course of time. But if she's got his trust, he will listen to her when she closes the door and says, Mr. President, we have a problem with X, Y, or Z. She can be really, really good at this job.
I wanted to play a bit of sound for you, Mick. Joe Rogan, who interviewed and, of course, endorsed Trump, had this advice, if you want to call it, for the president-elect. Take a listen.
There's a real chance to make real, tangible change that's going to be for the good of everybody. Yeah, he's got to unite people. He's got to not attack the left and not attack everybody. Let them all talk their but unite. Now it's time to unite everybody.
Yeah, Susie, part of Susie's job will be uniting, the staff too. Talk about Trump, though, and Republicans as a whole. They've been given this second chance, right, to unite the country. What do you want to see in terms of tone and policy to kind of, keep the runway going for future Republicans? What do they have to do and achieve?
And let's be clear about who's going to set the tone. It's going to be the president of the United States. The chief of staff helps implement what the president wants to do. The chief of staff does not set the tone. So when you look to Donald Trump, what is he going to do to Joe Rogan's point? It'll be really interesting to see. By the way, I'll be looking for a couple of early indicators. Will he pardon Hunter Biden? If Joe Biden does not, I fully expect Joe Biden to do that. But if he doesn't, will Donald Trump do that? What will the attitude be on the negotiation for the tax bill? That is going to be the chief legislative priority of the administration going forward. With Republicans in the House and the Senate, you don't have to work with Democrats that much, but I'd be curious to see what the attitudes are towards the Democrat. Susie could help, by the way. Susie could help. One of the things I tried to do when I was in the White House was to reach out to Democrats, specifically in the Senate, just to try and build some relationship. So even if you just had back channel communications, that could help serve the president. So, but again, the president will set the tone. Whether or not the president, Trump, spends his first 100 days doing his agenda or going what after the Democrats called his enemies list, I think that may set the tone for the next 4 years.
Well,
Thanks for watching, everybody. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. Also, don't forget to click that red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.